You always go for two on the road. Everybody knows it. When you're on the road in the NFL, and especially if you feel like you are the inferior football team, and don't get it twisted, despite whatever the records would tell you, the Denver Broncos were the inferior football team against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals should have blown the doors off the Broncos in that game. And fortunately for the Broncos, the Bengals were unable to capitalize on opportunity after opportunity. And the Broncos weren't able to capitalize on their opportunities either. Sudden change moments. Bengals go for it on fourth down multiple times, unable to do anything with it. And when you get to that point of the game where you feel like you're lucky to just be there, and you had a miraculous drive, and Bo Nix pulls off the impossible, and you score to tie up the game, you go for two on the road, especially when you are the inferior opponent. Simple as that. Everybody knows it, man, and it's frustrating. Man, that game was so frustrating on so many levels because the Broncos had opportunity after opportunity to win the game, but the Bengals had more. So as many frustrations as Broncos fans have in that game, I promise you Bengals fans were feeling the exact same way because you go back to the start of that game. First quarter. Sean Payton actually reads the notes on his play sheet this time. It said run the ball last week, right? So he didn't write that for everybody to see it this week. But first possession of the game, hey, Sean Payton read the notes. It was like the Chargers again. You march down the field. You're running the ball well. Everything's going great, but you stall out in the lower red zone. And it's 4th and 2, 4th and 1, whatever it was. And honestly, at that point, I thought surely Sean Payton's going to go for this thing. Because if you're going to beat the Bengals, you might have to be recklessly aggressive to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, he decides not to go for two at that point in the game, and that turns out to be a little bit of read in the future about what that game was going to look like because Sean Payton continued to play it safe the entire game. Well, actually, kicking the field goal turned out to be the right decision because the Bengals, when they get the ball back, they march down the field, but the defense comes up with a huge fourth down stop against the Bengals. Again in the second quarter, the Bengals felt like they had the ball the entire possession they had possession for the entirety of the second quarter, I should say. And yet again, the Denver Broncos defense comes up huge in the fourth quarter. On fourth down. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. The Broncos defense comes up huge on fourth down again. Are you kidding me? We get two stops against Joe Burrow in the lower red zone on fourth down? This has got to be the Denver Broncos' day, right? Well, Broncos aren't really able to do anything with it. And by the time the first half ends, it feels like the game is starting to slip away from the Denver Broncos. Second half begins. And the Bengals have got an opportunity to really put the game away. They've got a great opportunity to get the double score, to go up by two scores, and take control of the football game. But the Bengals aren't able to do it. So despite the fact that I'm not sure if the Bengals punted in the entire game, Broncos were able to keep that game close for the entirety of the football game. Fourth quarter comes around. And you need something miraculous. I mean, the game is over. The Bengals have got that game in the bag, and they had coaching malpractice down there on the goal line. They could have forced the Broncos to use their final timeout. All they had to do was take a knee or let Joe Burrow go over a couple of yards, set up a field goal, whatever they want to do. But instead, they go for the QB sneak, and they actually scored. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The Bengals are actually giving the ball back to the Broncos. But I didn't have much hope at that point. I'm going to be honest. I'm a pessimist. I'm not feeling like Bo Nix is going to pull a rabbit out of his hat. Lo and behold, Bo Nix pulls a rabbit out of his hat. Dude, first off, I forgot to mention Bo Nix connected in that game on the deepest pass in the NFL this season. That ball he threw to Marvin Mims was the deepest ball thrown all season long. Marvin Mims and Bo Nix connected on deep ball, and Marvin Mims was outrageous in that game. He was phenomenal. I mean, with the deep touchdown, and then obviously the touchdown at the end of the game when it felt like hope was gone. Bo Nix is scrambling around. He's got to make a play. He just tosses one up there. Marvin Mims is double covered. He's got a dude in front of him. He's got a dude behind him. And he comes down with by far the best catch of his career. What? Are you freaking kidding me? How the hell did that happen? Coaching malpractice from the Cincinnati Bengals. That was part of it. And then Bo Nix, I said before that drive on my live stream, this is when legends are made, you know? So Bo Nix, you've got your opportunity right now. Go make a name for yourself. And he did that. He marched the team down the field. He had his signature moment. And after they caught that ball, before they went to review, Sean Payton was going to go for 2. At least it looked that way. Bo Nix was signaling we're going for 2. Sean Payton was looking on his play sheet. And something happened during that period when the refs were reviewing that play. And Sean Payton rethinks things. And in the excuse that he gave after the game was that they knew that a tie would get them into the playoffs. To be honest, I didn't even know that going into the game. I didn't even know that a tie could get them into the playoffs until the announcer said it in overtime. So Sean said, we decided to play for overtime. In other words, we're playing for the tie, which that's a little bit of gutless if you ask me. I mean, is that really how you want to get into the playoffs? You want to limp into the playoffs with a tie? He decides to not go for 2, which I just couldn't believe it. It drives me insane because are you telling me that it's actually easier to, number one, win the coin toss, and then number 2, march down the field, get 2 or 3 first downs, and actually score a touchdown than it is to convert on 1 2-point conversion? I don't get the math on that. Coaches do it all the time. It sure seems to me like the odds would tell you that it is far easier to succeed on a singular play than it is on, number 1, winning the coin toss, and number 2, marching down the field and having a successful drive. But we get to overtime, Bengals win the coin toss. It's over. Surely this game's over, right? Joe Burrow, the most dangerous quarterback in the NFL, gets the ball in overtime. Yeah, this is ball game. We all know how this thing's going to go down. Well, it doesn't go that way. Bengals win the coin toss. They get the ball. Zach Allen comes up huge on the sack, and we force the Bengals to punt. What? How did that happen? It felt like the defense couldn't get a stop all game long, and they get a stop in overtime. All right, let's get the ball. Let's go. Time for the Broncos to go win the ball game, right? No, not so fast, my friends. Broncos go 3 and out or whatever it was that happened. All right, get the ball back to the Bengals, and they got the ball like the 50-yard line, if I remember correctly, in overtime. The second possession of overtime, it feels like the Bengals got that ball on like the 50-yard line. All they need is 3 points. Broncos only needed 3 points on the last possession, but they couldn't even get a first down. You're giving the ball back to Joe Burrow for his second opportunity in overtime. Surely this is ball game, right? Well, they get a first down or 2. Things get a little bit out of whack. They go for the field goal. Doink! Doink! Doink City! What? You've got to be kidding me right now. You have got to be kidding me. We have now stopped the Bengals twice on defense in overtime. Partly because the kicker doinked it. They should have won the game right then and there. But we get the ball back again. You got to be frickin' kidding me. What are we going to do with it? Nothing. Go 3 and out, whatever it was. Give the ball back to the Bengals for the third possession of overtime. And I don't know what you thought was going to happen. By the third time, I thought the first time Joe Burrow touched the ball in overtime, it was going to be ball game. I thought the second time Joe Burrow touched the ball in overtime, it was going to be ball game. Surely, by the third time he touched the ball in overtime, it was going to be ball game. And it was. He connects on a deep ball. It was a beautiful pass. Bengals end up winning in overtime, and Broncos fans go home with their hearts broken. That's that. Had an opportunity to secure your playoff fate, and you blew opportunity after opportunity. Frustrating game, man, because, I do think the Bengals are a superior team to the Broncos. Yet the Broncos had every opportunity to win the game. And it's just so frustrating, man. If I'm going to go down, I want to go down swinging. That's what I want to do. I want to go down swinging. You got an opportunity to win the game with a 2-point conversion. Let's go, man. Let's go for this thing. Let's go win the ball game. And you know what? If you don't convert on the 2-point conversion, at least you went down swinging. Instead, we played for overtime, and we found out afterwards that they were literally playing for the tie. I don't want to limp into the playoffs with a tie. I want to burst into the playoffs with a victory over Joe Burrow. That's what I want to do. And I got it. We're going to play the Chiefs backups. We're going to play the JV squad from the Chiefs next week. They're not going to play their starters because they've got the number 1 seed locked up. And yeah, the Broncos will probably get the win. But wouldn't it feel a whole lot different going into the playoffs if you could have found a way to beat the Bengals? You're probably going to play the Bills, and you're probably going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. But it would have felt a whole lot different getting into the playoffs with a confident victory like they could have had against the Bengals rather than limping into the playoffs with some BS win against the Chiefs backups. But don't get it twisted. There is no guarantee that the Broncos are going to beat the Chiefs backups. I was on a team my rookie season in the exact same situation. And yes, I'm having a little PTSD. We had 3 games to go. All we needed to do was win 1 game, and we were in the playoffs. It was like a guarantee. Surely we were going to the playoffs, man. All we got to do is win 1 out of the final 3. Well, we lost the first 2. Then we went down to San Diego. We played the Chargers in Week 16, and we got smoked. It was like 52-20 or something like that. We got absolutely smoked. So, yeah, I'm having a little bit of PTSD from that. And when I see opportunities to secure your fate and you go down because you're being passive, because you're playing for a tie, it just drives me insane. Drives me freaking insane. And yeah, there were moments throughout the game where it felt like we were giving up on the running game again. Jaleel McLaughlin was fantastic. Audric Estime was pretty damn good. Why is it so hard to just commit to running the football? I don't get that. It's like Sean Payton is just hell-bent on proving to the world that Bo Nix is in the same category as Joe Burrow. He's not. He's a damn good rookie quarterback, but he's not in the same class as Joe Burrow. Lean on the running game, for the love of God. It's pretty damn good when we commit to it. I'm telling you, you watch the All-22, the holes are there. The offensive line provides holes. There are opportunities to run the game, to run in that game. And we were more committed than we usually are. But even in that game, it was frustrating because it felt like we gave up on it. Riley Moss was just not himself. Riley has been so tremendous all season long. And the last thing I'm going to do is try to shoulder the blame on Riley Moss because he's been so fantastic all season long. But he clearly was either still hurt or rusty as hell. One of the two. Because that was a bad game from Riley Moss. This once vaunted Denver Broncos defense has been ranked 31st out of 32 teams in the month of December. They were a top 5 unit all year long, and it fell apart in the month of December, the most important month of football. And despite the fact that that score was close, the defense couldn't get a stop all game long. But I give them credit. They got 2 stops in the overtime. 2. Not 1, 2. So Sean Payton's decision to not go for 2 points at the end of the game, it actually looked like it was going to work out for him. They got the first stop against Joe Burrow. It didn't work out. Well, you got a second stop against Joe Burrow in overtime. You got an opportunity to go win the game again. So despite the fact that Sean was not aggressive, Dan Campbell is a Sean Payton protege. And Dan Campbell would be rolling over his grave. And I get it. Dan Campbell's made some dumb decisions because he's overly aggressive. What do you think Dan Campbell would have done at the end of that game? You think he's going for 2? Yeah, I think we know the answer to that one. And yeah, I got it. Dan Campbell's made some stupid decisions. But I was surprised, like really, really surprised that Sean Payton did not stay aggressive with an opportunity to win that game. And it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating. Everyone knows you go for two. When you're on the road, you go for two at the end of the game, especially if you feel like you are the inferior opponent. It's not all bad, man. I mean, it's not all bad. I guess you could look at it glass half full and be like, hey, we look pretty good against the Bengals. That's a damn good football team. At least a damn good quarterback. It's a terrible defense, but we look pretty damn good against them. There's some things you can feel good about. I mean, if you want to go like the 500-foot view and say we are way ahead of schedule, we are. That's all true, right? Nobody actually expected to have a playoff year. When the season began, we really just wanted to know that Bo Nix could play quarterback, and we know that now. And then we got a little bit greedy because we felt like we could go to the playoffs and maybe make a little bit of noise. Unfortunately, the matchup is just not going to be favorable for the Broncos. In all likelihood, you're going up against the Bills, maybe the Ravens. That's not a good matchup. You're looking at a first-round exit either way you look at it. But I hope they smoke the Chiefs, man. You better smoke them. If you play the JV squad of the Chiefs, you better not win by 3 points. You better not win by 7 points. You better smoke them. Because you can't waste this season. Too much has gone in their favor to just waste this thing. And I got too much PTSD right now to have good vibes because it just does not feel like anything has been going the Broncos' way for a month now. Bo Nix has been turning the ball over, had his sixth turnover in the last 3 games. The defense has fallen apart. The once vaunted Denver Broncos defense that people were comparing to the 2015 defense at one point, they've fallen apart. So I got some bad vibes. It sucks, but I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to look at it holistically. This team is way ahead of schedule. They've still got a great chance of making the playoffs. I think they will make the playoffs. I think they will beat the Kansas City Chiefs team. And once you get to the playoffs, you never freaking know. So that game sucks, man. But I guess let's just all take a deep breath. Let's look at it as a big picture thing. Focus on the macro, not the micro. And there's a lot of good things still going on in Broncos country. Appreciate you guys. I'll do the all 22, put that out.